All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on Trae Young being traded to the Washington Wizards. Now, I know the trade happened about 5-6 days ago, but this is still mind-boggling to me, guys. Like, Trae Young was traded to the Washington Wizards in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Guys, like, this is an insane trade that I still can't wrap my head around this. Like, the Hawks traded Trae Young and in exchange got a older veteran version of CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. My thoughts on the trade. It is crazy that a 27-year-old Trae Young, still in the prime of his career, one of the best guards in the league, was traded basically for nothing. Now, I know Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks were filing their papers for a divorce, but damn, can you get something more valuable than CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert in this trade? Like, I honestly, that day, like 5-6 days ago, I was so shocked when Trae Young wanted out of Atlanta. His top trade destination was the Washington Wizards. Like, I can't remember a player in the NBA in the prime of their career wanted to go to a bottom tier team in the Eastern Conference in the prime of their career. I just can't. I can't remember. This might have been the first time in my lifetime, but nonetheless, I mean, this is good for the Wizards because the last time they had a good player was prime Bradley Beal or a prime John Wall. Like, yeah, Russell Westbrook was there a couple years ago. That was cool, but he wasn't prime Russell Westbrook. Like, this is cool for the Washington Wizards. And Trae Young, he's still in the prime of his career, only 27, still a good playmaker, great passer, great shooter, a good three-point shooter. This guy is a good player, one of the best guards in the league. And now Trae Young is a player that fans in DC and the DMV area where I'm from, because I still love to go to basketball games, but I will tell you, it's hard going to a Wizards game because you're spending your money just to see them get blown out. And I want to see them a little bit more competitive. With Trae Young in the lineup now as their star player for the franchise, this could possibly bring more fans in attendance to DC, something they haven't had in like 7 to 10 years, and bring possible free agents, lure them into the nation's capital in DC to play alongside Trae Young. But we're talking about a player that has gotten the Atlanta Hawks to the playoffs several times. Like, I know I'm famous on this podcast for making jokes that the Atlanta Hawks just live in the play-in tournament, but Trae Young got them to the play-in tournament. He's gotten them to the playoffs several times. Let's not forget he got the Atlanta Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals back in 2021. And he did all of this in Atlanta for years without having an all-star player playing alongside of him that whole time he was in Atlanta. So I think if you're the Washington Wizards, you could build the franchise around Trae Young, Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson. Like, there's a lot to like. And the fact that the Wizards still did not give up any draft capital. Like, no first-round pick, no second-round pick. You only gave up 2 players for Trae Young still in the prime of his career. I think that's really good. And as bad as they could be, like, if they're one of the worst 8 teams in the league, they would get that unprotected first-round pick for the New York Knicks. So I think the fact that the Wizards have a lot of bright spots to look forward to is very substantial for them and their future. And Trae Young, let's see if your trade destination plays out. I could see why the Atlanta Hawks wanted to trade him, because at the end of the season, he could opt out of his contract and be a free agent, but I think he's going to stay in DC. He could opt out and get a max contract with the Washington Wizards. That could be the play. But if you're the Atlanta Hawks, if you're the Atlanta Hawks, what the hell were you thinking here? Because you could have gotten much more for Trae Young. I think they were a year or two too late to trade Trae Young to get more draft capital, more role players in exchange for a 27-year-old player like Trae Young. Like, you've seen what Damian Lillard went for when he got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks a few years ago. You've seen what Luka Doncic just went for when he got traded. Like, you could have got something similar to that for Trae Young. But you got no draft picks to show for it. How are you building towards the future, getting CJ McCollum and another player in this trade? And honestly, with Trae Young, I understand that he could have opted out if you're the Atlanta Hawks, and then he's a free agent. Then you get absolutely nothing But the fact that you could have traded him to a desperate contending team that could have looked for the services of a playmaking guard like Trae Young before the trade deadline, you could have got a desperate team to give up much more. Just like in a similar situation last year, where it was an ugly situation between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, where the Heat waited all the way until the 12th hour to trade Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors, and they got a good compensation for that. That's something similar that the Atlanta Hawks could have did, but you missed your window. And I think if you're Atlanta Hawks, you missed your window to win a long time ago, because I think the Eastern Conference is only getting better from here. We got the Knicks. The Celtics, even without Jason Tatum, they're still a sleeper team in the East. The Cleveland Cavaliers, you got the Philadelphia 76ers, the Detroit Pistons. Like, there's a lot to like in the East. But if you're the Atlanta Hawks, like, you missed your window years ago to compete and win a title. Because they over the years they traded John Collins, they traded Deontay Murray, and now they traded Trae Young. So if you're the Hawks, shame on you for trading Trae Young, basically getting nothing for one of the best guards in the league. But those are my thoughts on Trae Young being traded to the Washington Wizards.